Alabama taking on the Ole Miss Rebels in Oxford Saturday. The game time was supposed to be 5 p.m., but due to Hurricane Delta, it's been moved up to 6:30 p.m. It's going to be a very wet and rainy game because looking at the forecast for this Hurricane Delta, it is going to be dead smack over Oxford, Mississippi about 7 p.m. Saturday, which will be midway through the first quarter. The over-under for this game opened very, very high and has dropped significantly due to the weather. So Vegas is expecting a low-scoring game. Alabama is favored by 23.5 points, which seems right. And it seems like every single year, that Alabama and Ole Miss get together, just because Hugh Freeze beat Alabama 2 years in a row, does not mean that Ole Miss is going to beat Alabama this year. But it never fails. People always think that Ole Miss is going to beat Alabama or has a chance to even make it a tight game. That's not going to happen. I can tell you here right now. I don't know what I'd do if it is a close game, and I don't know what I'd do if Ole Miss wins, but I'll do something crazy. But I'm not going to have to do something crazy because Ole Miss is not going to beat Alabama. Okay. Now, a lot of people think this game's going to be like a 52-31 final score. And that's something I can kind of get behind. You know, that's the kind of the trend. Well, at least if you're looking at last year's game, that was the trend the games have been going on. And that's the typical modern Alabama final score. Like a 52-31, 52-28 modern Alabama game. So I guess in the Tua era, those have been the final scores of Alabama games. Last year, and I'm looking it up as we speak, last year it was 59-31 Alabama. So Alabama gave up a lot of points to Ole Miss. The last time Alabama played at Oxford, it was 62-7. In the year before that, in 2017, it was 66-3. So the last 4 years, frankly, the Alabama has dominated Ole Miss in terms of the aggregate score. We all know that Ole Miss beat Alabama in 2014 and 2015, but ever since then, there hasn't been too much of a doubt. Now, in that 2016 game, Ole Miss was up by 21 points at halftime, or right before halftime, but Alabama came back and won that game. But anyway, that's enough of the past. Let's talk about this year's game. Ole Miss is 1-1 on the season. They put up a lot of points against a good Florida team. I'm not sure about Florida's defense, but they did put up a lot of points on Florida. They lost that one by 16, 51-35. They also gave up a lot of points to Florida. And they just knocked off Kentucky in overtime by 1 point thanks to a missed extra point for Kentucky. Now, if we look at the Alabama side, we already know that Alabama has beaten Texas A&M and Missouri handily. And I think if you just look at the two games both teams have played, I think it's pretty easy to figure out who's going to win this game. It's Alabama by a lot. If I had to predict the final score, I can, I don't want to see it. I know it's going to be rainy. But as an Alabama fan, I don't want to see Ole Miss score too many points. But I think they'll get, 4 touchdowns in. I think they'll put up 28 points. That's just the kind of stuff that happens. And I would even say the 28 points would be legitimate points. Some of them are going to be garbage time. Maybe 2 touchdowns in garbage time. I think we go out to a big halftime lead. We pull the starters. They score 2 touchdowns. And I'm going to say that we're going to win. Alabama's going to win this game 56-28. That's going to be my prediction. And I think at halftime it will be something like 35-7. So you can kind of get what I'm seeing this game is Alabama jumps out to a big lead. They pull the starters, and Ole Miss scores a couple touchdowns to tighten it up. Now, we don't know how much the weather is going to affect the game. I know it's a hurricane coming in, and I'm basically predicting this game if it was beautiful weather. And I'm not going to put too much stock into the weather. I would just take maybe 2 touchdowns off if the weather is really, really bad. So maybe 42-14 or something like that. I don't know. The weather's throwing a wrench in this thing. But I know that the weather is not going to cause this game to become any closer, because I know that Alabama's going to be prepared for the rain game. The last time Alabama's played in the rain, or played in a torrential downpour, I believe was the Georgia game in Athens in 2015. And we all know how that went. Alabama smoked Georgia. But I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem against Ole Miss. I don't think the weather is going to affect it too much unless the weather is really, really bad. I think it's going to be a normal game. So that's about it for today. I'm really excited about this game. It feels, I'm excited about every game, but it feels like the typical Alabama Ole Miss game where people kind of think Ole Miss is going to win, but they're not really going to win. So I'm excited for every game, but I'm excited about this one too, and I'm ready to see Alabama take the field in the rain.